Namo, Amitabha Buddha. Warm greetings to you, my dear friend, wherever you are listening from tonight. Have you ever noticed this strange moment? Your body is completely exhausted. The lights are off. The day is finally over. And yet the moment your head touches the pillow, your mind refuses to rest. Thoughts begin to whisper. Old worries, unfinished conversations, bills, health family mistakes from years ago. Nothing dramatic is happening in the room. But inside, it feels like something won't let go. Many people quietly ask themselves at night, why am I so tired, but my mind won't sleep? Why can't I just turn it off? If you felt this way, please know this. First, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken, and you are not alone. Tonight, I want to gently share with you a teaching from the Buddha, not as a lecture, not as pressure, but as a soft light you can rest beside. A way of understanding the mind that doesn't require force. A simple, spiritual path that allows the heart to feel safe and the mind to slowly, naturally settle. So for now, you don't need to fix anything. Just stay here with me and let us begin together. It's okay if you're still here with me. You didn't drift away. You didn't fail to relax. You're simply noticing what so many people notice when the world finally grows quiet. When the body is tired, the mind often becomes louder. You lie there, breathing slowly, feeling the weight of the day sink into the mattress. Your shoulders soften. Your hands rest open. The room is still. Maybe there's the faint hum of the air conditioner or the distant sound of a car passing somewhere far away. Everything outside seems ready to sleep. And yet, inside, something stirs. A thought appears uninvited, then another, then another. A memory you didn't ask for. A worry you thought you had already handled. A sentence someone said earlier today that keeps replaying slightly different each time, as if your mind is trying to rewrite the past into something safer. The more exhausted you feel, the more urgent these thoughts seem. As if the mind is saying, wait, don't rest yet. There's something you need to solve. Many people quietly wonder in moments like this, why does my mind get louder when I need rest the most? Why does calm feel hardest when I finally have the chance to be calm in American life? We are taught to push through tiredness, to stay productive, to handle things quickly, to fix problems immediately. Even rest becomes something we try to do right. So, when the mind won't settle, a subtle frustration creeps in. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just sleep like other people? I've tried everything. That frustration tightens the chest just a little. The jaw clenches without noticing. The breath becomes shallow again, and suddenly the night feels heavy. But the Buddha saw something very gentle and very important about moments like this. He saw that the mind becomes loud, not because you are weak, but because it has been running all day without guidance. Like a child who has been overstimulated, overtired, and finally sits down in a quiet room only to burst into motion. When the body slows down, the mind finally has space to speak. Not because it's wise, not because it's helpful, but because it has never been taught how to rest. In Buddhist teachings, this restless activity of the mind is called mental formations, habits of thinking that arise on their own. They are not personal failures. They are conditioned patterns built over years of reacting, planning, remembering, protecting, and worrying. Think of the mind like a radio that has been playing all day. When the house is noisy, you don't notice it. But when the house goes quiet, suddenly the sound feels loud. The radio didn't turn itself on to hurt you. It simply never learned when to turn off. Many people believe that peace comes from forcing the mind to be silent. But force only adds another layer of tension. The Buddha never taught us to fight the mind. He taught us to understand it. Here is a quiet truth that brings relief when it's truly felt. The mind gets louder when it is tired because it is afraid of losing control. Throughout the day, the mind believes it is keeping you safe. It plans, it judges, it replays, it anticipates. When night comes and you stop moving, it feels its role slipping away. So it raises its voice, hoping you will listen. This is why telling yourself, "Stop thinking," rarely works. It's like telling a frightened child to be quiet instead of letting them know they are safe. And this is where so many people misunderstand themselves. They assume the noise means something is wrong with their life, or that they are failing at meditation, or that peace is reserved for other people with calmer minds. But the Buddha gently pointed in a different direction. He said suffering doesn't come from thoughts appearing. Suffering comes from believing we must follow every thought that appears. At night, thoughts feel more convincing because the world offers fewer distractions. A worry about money feels bigger in the dark. A regret feels heavier when there is no sunlight to soften it. A fear about health or family feels closer when everything is quiet. But notice something subtle. The thought appears, and then if you don't feed it, it fades. Another arises, and it too changes. This constant movement is not you. It is something happening within you. The Buddha compared this to watching waves on the surface of a lake. When the wind is strong, the water looks chaotic, but the depth of the lake remains still. Most people spend their nights trying to calm the waves. The Buddha, invited us to notice the depth. This doesn't mean you immediately feel peaceful. It means you stop taking the noise personally. You stop adding shame to restlessness. You stop telling yourself stories about being broken. And something softens. The shoulders drop a little more. The breath finds a slower rhythm. The mind is still noisy, but you are no longer fighting it. In many Buddhist communities, here in the United States, especially among families, balancing work, caregiving, and financial pressure, this teaching becomes deeply comforting. It reminds us that rest is not earned by solving everything. Rest begins when we stop demanding the mind to perform. Tonight, you don't need to untangle every thought. You don't need to fix your life. You don't need to understand everything that arises. You only need to recognize this one thing. The noise is a sign of tiredness, not failure. The restlessness is asking for kindness, not control. And as we continue, together very gently, you'll begin to see how the Buddha offered a way to let the mind feel safe enough to quiet itself, not through force, but through understanding and a simple spiritual refuge that has comforted countless hearts before you. For now, just stay with the breath. The night is still holding you. The night is still holding you now. And as the breath continues to rise and fall, something subtle becomes possible. You may notice that the thoughts are still there. They haven't disappeared. They move quietly, like shadows passing across a dimly lit wall. And this is where many people misunderstand the Buddha. They imagine that enlightenment means a silent mind, no thoughts, no noise, no inner movement at all. But the Buddha never asked us to become empty or numb. He never demanded that the mind be forced into silence. Instead, he offered something far more gentle. He taught us how to see clearly. Imagine sitting by a lake at night. The water is dark and the surface is rippling. If you stare at the waves and try to flatten them with your hands, the water only splashes higher. But if you sit back, breathe, and simply watch, something becomes obvious. The waves rise, the waves fall, and the lake remains a lake. The Buddha discovered that thoughts are the same way. They are movements. They are conditions. They are not commands. In Buddhist teaching, the mind is often described as a stream, not a solid thing, not a fixed self, but a flowing process. Thoughts, memories, fears, plans, they appear, change, shape, and dissolve. One replaces another endlessly. What causes suffering is not that this stream exists. Suffering begins when we step into the water and forget we are watching. So many of us live as if every thought deserves obedience. A thought says you should have done better, and the heart tightens. A thought says something bad is going to happen, and the body prepares for danger. A thought says you're falling behind, and the night becomes heavy with urgency. But the Buddha quietly asked a question that changes everything. If you can notice a thought, how can that thought be you? If you can observe fear rising, how can fear be your true self? This is not philosophy meant to impress the mind. It is a practical instruction meant to free the heart. In monasteries and Buddhist centers across the United States, teachers often begin meditation not by asking students to stop thinking, but by inviting them to label gently. Thinking, remembering, planning, worrying. There is no scolding in this, no judgment, just recognition. The moment you name a thought, something shifts. The thought is still present, but it loses its grip. It's like hearing a distant bell. You don't chase it. You don't analyze it. You simply notice the sound arrive and then fade into silence. The Buddha taught that this ability to know what is happening without being swept away is called mindfulness, not concentration, not control. Awareness. And awareness is not cold. It is warm. It is patient. It is compassionate. When awareness looks at the mind, it does not say, "Why are you like this?" It says, "I see you." This is why the Buddha never treated thoughts as enemies. He saw them as habits, habits formed through repetition, fear, love, protection, and survival. Some habits come from childhood. Some come from trauma. Some come from generations before us. A mother's anxiety, a father's silence, the pressure to succeed, the fear of not being enough. All of these leave imprints in the mind. And when the world becomes quiet at night, those imprints begin to speak. But hearing them does not mean you must follow them. The Buddha explained this through the teaching of the 5 aggregates, the components of experience: the body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness. All of them arise and pass. None of them stay. None of them can be held. You may feel sadness one moment, irritation the next, calm for a breath or two, then worry again. If you watch closely, you'll notice that even the sense of me changes with these states. The me who feels strong during the day is not the same me who feels vulnerable at night. So which one is real? The Buddha did not answer this with words. He answered by pointing. He pointed to the one who knows all of this. The knowing itself does not panic. The knowing does not rush. The knowing does not judge. It simply knows. When you rest in this knowing, even for a moment, the relationship to thought changes. The mind becomes more like weather and less like identity. A cloud passes, then another. The sky does not argue with them. This is why the Buddha said liberation does not come from destroying the mind, but from no longer mistaking it for who you are. For many people, living busy lives in America, juggling work, family health, and responsibility, this teaching brings deep relief. It means peace is not something you earn after fixing everything. Peace begins the moment you stop believing every voice that arises in the dark. Tonight, you are not asked to analyze your thoughts. You are not asked to heal your entire past. You are not asked to become someone else. You are simply invited to notice. Notice the breath moving in and out. Notice a thought arriving. Notice it staying for a moment. Notice it leaving. No pushing, no pulling, just seeing. And in this seeing, something soft begins to unfold. The mind senses that it no longer needs to shout to be heard. It feels witnessed. It feels met. Like a child who finally realizes someone is listening, the mind begins slowly to quiet on its own. And as this gentle clarity settles, you may start to sense that the Buddha's path was never about forcing silence. It was about discovering a way of seeing that brings kindness into the very place where suffering used to live. And from this seeing, a deeper refuge becomes possible. And from this gentle seeing, something even deeper begins to reveal itself. When you stop fighting the mind, when you stop taking every thought personally, you may start to notice a quiet pattern underneath it all. Thoughts don't just appear and disappear at random. They leave traces. Some feel light. Some feel heavy. Some seem to return again and again, especially at night, as if they know exactly where to find you. The Buddha described this with a very simple image. Every thought is a seed. Some seeds carry fear. Some carry kindness. Some carry old pain. Some carry hope. And just like seeds in a garden, they grow according to how often they are watered. Imagine a small backyard at dusk. The air is cool. The grass still holds a little warmth from the sun. If you scatter seeds every day, in the same corner, something will eventually grow there, whether you intended it or not. The soil doesn't judge the seeds. It simply responds. The mind is the same way. Each time a worried thought appears, and you follow it, turning it over, adding details, imagining outcomes, you are watering that seed. The roots grow a little deeper. The habit becomes a little stronger. Each time a self-critical thought says, "I should be better than this," and you believe it, that seed is fed. Over time, it no longer needs much encouragement. It rises on its own. This is what the Buddha meant by karma or action, not fate, not punishment, not something mysterious and distant. Karma is simply the momentum created by repeated patterns of mind, speech, and action. Most people think karma belongs to the past or the future, but the Buddha pointed us right here. Karma is happening now, right now, as a thought arises, right now, as you respond to it, right now, as the heart tightens or softens. At night, when the mind replays fears or regrets, it's not trying to hurt you. It's following grooves that were carved long ago. Grooves made from survival protection and learned behavior. A child who grew up needing to stay alert. A parent who learned to worry as a form of love. A worker who learned that rest must be earned. These patterns become seeds stored in the mind. And when life slows down, when the world stops demanding your attention, those seeds finally have space to sprout. But here is the teaching that brings real hope. The Buddha taught that while we cannot stop seeds from existing, we can choose which ones we water. This is where mindfulness becomes more than awareness. It becomes transformation. When a thought arises and you simply notice it without arguing, without feeding it, something remarkable happens. The seed does not die immediately, but it also does not grow. It is like placing a seed on dry ground. It remains a seed. Over time, seeds that are not watered lose their strength. They still appear, but they carry less urgency, less authority, less power over the body and heart. At the same time, something else becomes possible. Each moment of gentle awareness plants a different kind of seed. A seed of patience, a seed of kindness toward yourself, a seed of trust. Even a single breath taken with care is a form of planting. This is why the Buddha emphasized intention so deeply. Intention is the hand that chooses which seeds are placed into the soil of the mind. In Buddhist temples across America, you may notice something quiet and steady. People bow slowly. They light incense. They chant softly. Not because these actions magically erase suffering, but because they shape intention. They remind the heart where to lean. When you sit at night and choose not to chase a fearful thought, you are performing the same kind of practice. You are choosing not to water fear. And when you gently return to the breath, or to a phrase of kindness, or to a sacred sound, you are watering something else. This is where many people misunderstand spiritual practice. They believe that peace requires removing all negative thoughts. But the Buddha never promised that. He offered something more realistic and more compassionate. He showed us how to change the direction of growth. Think of an old tree with deep roots. You don't pull it out overnight, but if you stop feeding it and begin nourishing new ground, the landscape slowly changes. This is also where devotion enters naturally without force. When the mind is too tired to stay present, when awareness feels thin and fragile, repeating a sacred phrase becomes a way of planting goodness without effort. A quiet Amitabha, a gentle Namo Amitabha Buddha, or simply, may I be at ease. These are not escapes. They are intentional seeds. In many Asian Buddhist traditions, practiced here in the United States, elders often say, Niem Phot La Gyeo Hat Lan. To recite the Buddha's name is to plant wholesome seeds, not only for the future, but for this very moment. You may notice something subtle when you do this. The breath slows, the chest softens, the jaw unclenches. The body responds before the mind understands. This is not blind belief. It is cause and effect. A calm intention produces a calm response. A gentle focus creates gentle space. This is how karma is transformed, not through effortful control, but through repeated kindness. And there is another layer to this teaching that often goes unspoken. When you stop watering fear, you are not only helping yourself, you are changing what you carry forward. Many of us hold patterns that came from our parents, our grandparents, from times when life was harder and survival demanded vigilance. Each time you choose awareness over panic, you are quietly ending a cycle. This is a form of compassion that reaches beyond the self. The Buddha taught that wholesome actions create merit, not as a reward, but as a natural result. A heart that acts with care experiences less inner conflict. A mind that plants calm begins to rest more easily. This is why, over time, people who practice gently begin to sleep differently. Not perfectly, not every night, but with less struggle. The night feels less like a battleground. The mind feels less like an enemy. The body begins to trust the dark again. Tonight, you are not asked to change everything. You are simply invited to notice what you are feeding. When a thought arises, you can quietly ask without judgment, is this a seed I want to water right now? If the answer is no, you don't need to push it away. You can let it be dry. And then, with the same care you would offer a small garden, you can turn your attention towards something that brings steadiness. A breath, a sacred name, a feeling of warmth in the chest. In this way, moment by moment, night after night, the mind learns a new habit, not through force, not through fear, but through patient planting. And slowly, the inner landscape begins to change. And as the inner landscape slowly begins to change, there comes a moment many people recognize but rarely speak about. There are nights when even gentle awareness feels like too much effort. The body is heavy. The heart feels tender. The mind is not racing wildly anymore, but it is still restless, like a tired animal that doesn't know where to lie down. In moments like this, being told to stay present can feel exhausting. Watching thoughts can feel like work. Even the breath can feel far away, as if you're reaching for something just out of reach. The Buddha understood this kind of fatigue deeply. That is why he never offered only one path. When the mind has strength, awareness is enough. But when the mind is worn down, the Buddha offered a refuge, a place to lean, a sound to return to, a presence to trust. This is where the simple practice of reciting a Buddha's name becomes not just helpful but compassionate. Imagine an elderly woman sitting quietly in a small temple room. The lights are low. The air smells faintly of incense. Her hands rest gently in her lap. With each breath, her lips move almost imperceptibly. Amitabha, Amitabha. Her face is not tense. The lines around her eyes soften. Her shoulders drop, as if they have been holding something for years and are finally allowed to rest. She is not analyzing her thoughts. She is not trying to understand the nature of the mind. She is simply resting her awareness inside a familiar, benevolent sound. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, this is sometimes called borrowing strength. When your own mindfulness feels thin, you borrow the steadiness of the Buddha's name. When your concentration feels scattered, you let a sacred sound gather it gently without force. Reciting a Buddha's name is not meant to push thoughts away. It gives the mind something kind to hold, like placing a warm blanket around tired shoulders. In many Buddhist communities across the United States, especially among families balancing work, illness, caregiving, and financial stress, this practice has quietly carried people through the hardest seasons of their lives. A man driving home late after a double shift whispers the name under his breath at red lights. A mother sitting beside her child's hospital bed repeats it silently as machines hum in the background. An older father living alone turns the words into a rhythm that keeps loneliness from hardening into despair. This practice endures because it meets people where they are. From a Buddhist perspective, there is a clear and gentle logic behind this. The mind cannot focus on two things fully at the same time. When it is occupied with fear, it feeds fear. When it is occupied with kindness, it begins to soften. A Buddha's name is not just a word. It carries meaning shaped by centuries of compassion, vows, and intention. When you repeat it, even without deep understanding, your nervous system responds to the steadiness of repetition. Your breath naturally slows. The body receives a signal of safety. This is not superstition. It is cause and effect. Just as a lullaby calms a child without explanation, a sacred phrase can calm the heart without analysis. You may notice that when you begin reciting softly, the jaw loosens, the tongue relaxes, the breath lengthens without instruction. Thoughts still come, but they move more slowly, as if they are passing through a thicker, gentler air. In Buddhist language, this is the beginning of samadhi, a collected mind, not sharp, not intense, just gathered. And from this gathering, something beautiful happens. The sense of being alone eases. You may feel as if you are sitting beside someone who understands your exhaustion completely and asks nothing from you. No fixing, no proving, no effort, just presence. This is why many teachers say that reciting a Buddha's name is not separate from mindfulness. It is mindfulness supported by devotion, awareness carried by trust. When awareness says, "I'm too tired," devotion replies, "Rest here." Some people worry they are using recitation as an escape, but the Buddha taught that true escape is not from experience, it is from suffering. If a practice reduces suffering without harming anyone, it is skillful. And there is another layer of kindness here. When you recite a Buddha's name, you are not only calming your own mind, you are planting wholesome seeds. Each repetition is an intentional action rooted in peace rather than fear. Over time, these small actions accumulate. The mind begins to associate the night with safety instead of struggle. The body begins to trust rest again. The heart learns that it does not need to stay vigilant to survive. This is how deep habits change, not through force, but through repetition of gentleness. Tonight, you don't need to recite perfectly. You don't need to pronounce every syllable correctly. You don't need to believe anything extraordinary. You can simply let the sound ride the breath. Inhale. Ami, exhale. Tabha, or quietly, without sound, letting the words float through the chest like a warm current. If thoughts interrupt, that's okay. If you forget and remember again, that's okay. Each return is part of the practice. This is not about discipline. It is about refuge. When the mind is too tired to watch itself, It is allowed to lean on something steady. When awareness feels distant, it is allowed to be carried. The Buddha never asked us to walk alone through exhaustion. He offered many doors into peace, knowing that different nights require different keys. And as you rest with this simple practice, you may notice something subtle begin to happen. The urgency softens. The inner noise lowers its voice. The night no longer feels like something you must endure. It becomes a place where you are gently held. And from this place of being held true, rest can begin. And now, as the night continues to hold you, we come to something very simple. Not a theory, not a belief you have to accept. Just a few gentle movements of attention that allow the heart to loosen its grip. You don't need to sit up. You don't need perfect posture. You can remain exactly as you are lying down, covered safe. Think of these not as steps you must perform, but as doors you are invited to open. If one door doesn't open tonight, that's okay. Another one will. We begin where the Buddha always began, with the body. First, allow your attention to drift gently into the breath. Not the whole breath at once, just one place. Perhaps the coolness of air at the tip of the nose, or the slow rise of the chest beneath the blanket, or the gentle expansion of the belly, like a tide that knows when to come in and when to retreat. There is no need to change the breath. Simply notice it, the way you might notice a candle flickering softly in a quiet room. In and out. As you breathe, imagine each exhale sinking a little deeper into the mattress. The shoulders soften. The muscles around the eyes release their hold. The jaw loosens just enough to create a small space between the teeth. This is not effort. This is permission. In the Buddha's teaching, this simple awareness of the body is called coming home. Not to a place, but to this moment. You may still hear thoughts moving in the background. That's all right. You are not here to chase them away. Just let the breath be the anchor, quiet, steady, patient. When you feel ready, we move to the second gentle step. Begin to notice what is happening in the mind, but only from a distance. A thought may arise. Instead of following it, imagine placing it on an open palm. You don't squeeze. You don't throw it away. You simply acknowledge it. Silently, you might name it with one soft word. Planning, remembering, worrying, judging. No story, no explanation. Just the name, like labeling a cloud drifting across the sky. You may notice something subtle here. The moment a thought is named, it slows down. It no longer rushes you forward. It no longer pulls you backward. It simply exists and then begins to fade. This is one of the Buddha's quiet insights. When we see a thought clearly, it loses the power to pretend it is a command. You are not arguing with the mind. You are not correcting it. You are simply letting it know it has been seen. If another thought comes, do the same. Name it gently. Then return to the breath. In American Buddhist communities, teachers often say, this is like watching traffic from the sidewalk. Cars pass by. You don't have to get in. Tonight, you are allowed to stay on the sidewalk. Now we come to the third step, especially for moments when the mind feels tender or tired. If naming thoughts feels like too much, let the mind rest inside a simple phrase. You may choose a Buddha's name that feels familiar and comforting. Amitabha, or quietly Namo, Amitabha Buddha. If religious language doesn't feel close tonight, you may choose a phrase of kindness instead. Safe. Here. Let go. Allow the phrase to move with the breath. Inhale. The phrase begins. Exhale. The phrase completes itself. There is no rush, no counting, no goal. Let the sound or the words feel like a warm hand resting on the heart. You may notice the rhythm settling the nervous system. The body responds before the mind has time to analyze. This is not imagination. It is the wisdom of repetition. The Buddha understood that the mind, when given something gentle and steady, naturally begins to collect itself. Not sharply, not tightly, but like a group of birds slowly coming to rest on a quiet wire at dusk. If you lose the phrase, that's okay. If you forget and remember again, that is the practice. Each return is a small act of kindness. And if at any point sleep begins to arrive, you don't need to hold on to the practice. You can let it carry you the rest of the way. As these three gentle movements, breath, noticing, and resting in a phrase begin to work together, something important happens. You stop trying to fall asleep, and sleep finds you. The body feels heavier, but in a good way. The edges of thought soften. The sense of urgency dissolves. In Buddhist teaching, this is called letting conditions settle, not forcing peace, allowing it. You may notice a faint warmth in the chest, or a sense of being held by something larger than your worries, or simply a quiet neutrality where struggle used to live. Whatever appears is enough. Tonight, you are not here to succeed. You are here to rest. And if the mind wanders again, that's not a problem. You know the way back now. Breath, name, phrase. Over time, these three gentle steps teach the mind something it may have forgotten. That it does not need to stay alert to be safe. That rest is not a reward. That letting go is allowed. And as the night deepens, you may feel the practice slowly receding into the background like a lullaby that continues even after you stop listening. If sleep comes, welcome it. If it doesn't come right away, that's all right too. You are already resting in a deeper way. And in this resting, the heart learns trust again. And as the breath grows quieter and the body settles into a deeper ease, the heart naturally begins to widen. There is a moment, often very soft, almost unnoticed, when rest is no longer only personal. The sense of me resting gently opens into something larger, something warmer, something that remembers others. In Buddhist practice, this is a sacred turning. After calming the mind, we let the goodness flow outward. You might notice an image forming without effort. Perhaps the face of someone you love appears, your mother, your father, a partner, a child, or a friend. Their expression may be tired, or worried, or simply human. Let that image come and go naturally. There is no need to analyze it. In many homes across America, especially in families shaped by both Eastern traditions and Western life, people end their day with a quiet wish for those they love, a whispered prayer, a hand placed over the heart, a pause before sleep. This is not sentimentality, it is connection. In the Buddha's teaching, this turning of the heart is called dedication. We take whatever calm, clarity, or kindness has arisen, even if it feels small, and we share it. Not because others need fixing, but because the heart grows lighter when it includes. Imagine a small candle in a dark room. When it lights another candle, the first flame does not diminish. The room simply becomes brighter. In the same way, when you let your calm extend beyond yourself, nothing is lost. So gently, you may begin like this. In your own words, or quietly within, offer a simple wish. May this sense of ease reach my parents. May they be protected. May their hearts be light tonight. If your parents are no longer alive, you may still feel their presence. A memory, a lesson, a tone of voice that shaped you. Let the wish move toward them without effort. In many Buddhist families, this moment carries deep meaning. It is a way of honoring where we came from, acknowledging unseen support, and expressing gratitude without needing perfect words. You may notice your chest soften as you do this. The breath moves more freely. The face relaxes into a quiet kindness. Then, if it feels natural, let the circle widen. Think of your family, your household, those you worry about. A son working late, a daughter navigating her own struggles, a partner carrying silent burdens. You might sense how often love expresses itself as worry, how the mind tightens because it wants to protect, Now, instead of worry, offer peace. May you be safe. May you rest. May you feel supported. The Buddha taught that intention shapes the heart. Even a brief moment of sincere goodwill changes the quality of the mind that offers it. This is not about controlling outcomes. It is about releasing the weight of constant concern. And then, if you wish, let the dedication extend even further. To those you do not know, to neighbors, to people lying awake in other rooms, other cities, other states, in hospitals where machines hum through the night, in quiet apartments where loneliness lingers, in homes where exhaustion sits heavily at the end of long days. You don't need to picture them clearly. Just let the feeling of goodwill flow outward, like a gentle warmth spreading in all directions. May all beings find rest. May all hearts be at ease. May suffering be met with compassion. In Buddhist understanding, this practice is powerful not because it changes the world overnight, but because it changes the one who offers it. The heart that dedicates goodness learns to release self-centered tension. It remembers that it belongs to something larger than its fears. And there is another quiet truth here. When you end the day with dedication rather than rumination, the mind carries a different tone into sleep. Instead of looping through problems, it settles into connection. Instead of rehearsing fear, it rests in care. This is why many elders teach that dedication before sleep protects the heart. It is like setting the mind gently on a cushion of kindness. If you feel moved, you may also dedicate this goodness to your own healing, not as a demand, but as a blessing. May this heart learn to trust rest. May this body be supported through the night. May this mind be free from unnecessary struggle. Notice how different this feels from self-criticism. The voice is softer. The intention is kinder. The body responds with relief. In Buddhist teaching, this act of dedication is also an act of humility. It acknowledges that peace does not belong to us alone. It arises through causes and conditions. Teachers, ancestors, community, and countless moments of care we may never fully see. When we dedicate goodness, we align ourselves with that stream. Here in the United States, where life often emphasizes independence and self-reliance, this practice offers balance. It reminds us that well-being is relational, that healing does not happen in isolation. As the night deepens, you may sense a gentle completeness settling in, not because everything is resolved, but because nothing needs to be carried alone. The breath continues quietly. The mind feels less tight around its edges. The heart rests in a wider space. You have done enough for today. Whatever calm you touched, even briefly, is meaningful. Whatever kindness you offered internally or outwardly matters. Now, allow yourself to rest inside this shared peace. Let the wishes fade naturally, like incense smoke dissolving into the air. Sleep may come, or you may simply rest more deeply. Either way, the heart has been gently aligned with what truly nourishes it, and that is already a beautiful way to end the day. And now, as the night settles more deeply around you, there is nothing left to understand, nothing left to practice, nothing left to improve. The breath moves on its own. The body has found a softer shape against the bed. The mind no longer feels like something that needs to be managed. It is simply there. And so are you. There is a quiet truth the Buddha wanted people to feel, not just know with the mind, but feel in the body and heart. Suffering does not end because we fix everything. Suffering ends when we stop demanding more from this moment than it can give. Tonight, you have already done enough. You noticed the breath. You saw the mind without fighting it. You chose kindness over control. You let goodness extend beyond yourself. That is the path, not a dramatic awakening, not a sudden silence, but a gentle return to what has always been carrying you. If you listen closely now, you may sense a deeper stillness beneath the remaining thoughts. Like a lake after the wind has softened, not perfectly smooth, but no longer restless. Reflections begin to appear again. The Buddha taught that peace is not something added to life. It is what remains when grasping loosens. Tonight, grasping has loosened even a little, and that is enough. You do not need to replay the day anymore. You do not need to plan tomorrow. Those things will wait. For now, let the mind rest where it is allowed to rest, inside simple awareness, inside a feeling of being supported by causes far larger than personal effort. In Buddhist teaching, this is called trust in the path. Not blind faith, but confidence born from experience. You have tasted what happens when you stop pushing. You have felt the difference between tension and allowing. That knowing stays with you, even if sleep comes and goes, even if the night is imperfect, even if tomorrow brings its own challenges. You are learning how to meet life with less resistance, and that learning continues quietly, even while you sleep. Here in this moment, you don't have to carry the weight of the world. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to hold yourself together. Imagine the mind like a tired traveler setting down a heavy bag at the door. The shoulders roll back, the hands open. The breath deepens without instruction. Nothing is missing. If thoughts arise again, they can float by like distant lights seen through a window. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to turn toward them. You can remain right here, resting. The Buddha often spoke of the middle way, not forcing, not avoiding. Tonight, the middle way is simply letting sleep arrive in its own time. Whether you drift off quickly or slowly, you are resting in the truest sense now. And before you fully surrender to sleep, allow one final gentle intention to settle in the heart. May this night restore what the day has taken. May this body be supported. May this mind remember how to soften. May this heart wake tomorrow with a little more ease if it feels right. You may quietly offer the same wish to others once more. Family, friends, strangers walking their own quiet paths through the night. Not as a task, just as a warm closing gesture. In American life, where so much is measured by output and achievement, choosing rest is a quiet act of wisdom. It says, my well-being matters. My nervous system matters. My heart deserves care. This too is practice. This too is the Buddha's way. Now you are invited to let go completely. Let the breath fade into the background. Let the words dissolve. Let the night take over from here. There is nothing else to do. Sleep, if it comes, is welcome. Wakefulness, if it lingers, is also held. Either way, you are no longer alone with the mind. Thank you for allowing this time of stillness. Thank you for giving yourself permission to rest. If these moments have brought you comfort, you may return whenever you need a place to set things down. And if someone you love is struggling through long nights of their own, sharing this quiet refuge may be a simple act of kindness. For now, though, there is only this: a body at rest, a heart at ease, a night that asks nothing from you. Good night. May you be well.